Hello and welcome once again to another episode of FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined by my good friend, colleague and I'm sure enthusiast editor as well, Steve Kern. How you doing, Steve?
Hi everyone, and no, I was never that fond of editing, but it's something that has to be done.
Oh, well, that all may change with what we're about to discuss today, so...
Absolutely, this is very exciting.
Absolutely. And just before we begin, our website, www.fistchat.com, you can check us out there, get links to all our past episodes and interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, and all the other mediums we got going there. We'd love to hear from you. And just one other thing, I'm not sure what it's like, the weather's like over there at the moment, Steve, but we've got a massive thunderstorm happening right as we speak. So even though you can't hear anything at the moment, if you hear a rumble or two during the soundtrack as we're recording this, it adds to the drama of what we're talking about.
We've got a big storm here as well, Ben, so, it must be a big storm, 800k apart.
Oh, absolutely. So we're talking about today cloud-based video editing, for lack of a better word. YouTube announced this new feature where you can basically log in, upload your video, and using the website itself, you can actually edit your video. And the reason why they brought this about was because the powers that be at YouTube noticed that there were a lot of people just uploading videos without doing any sort of editing to them whatsoever. So there'd be, I don't know, 2 minutes of black before the actual video started, or some along those lines, and they designed this feature so that people could kind of top and tail the video so that it was a little tidier, because maybe not everyone is into using the editing software that's out there, despite it being quite simple to use these days. So I mean, using that as a stepping off point, I think it's quite interesting, isn't it, Steve, that we're getting to this stage of doing something that's really a quite complex kind of task in the cloud, and in a way this is kind of bringing it to everybody that can use it, because in this day and age video production is just so simple and can be done so easily and so quickly that I guess it was only a matter of time before a feature like this became available for everyone to use.
Absolutely. Look, editing is 90% just cutting, straight cuts. So to have this available in the cloud is amazing. And for the kids out there, of course, we're talking about editing or mashups, rehashes. I don't know what you call them out there, but that's what it's all about. Interestingly, Ben, we've spoken about the iPad, and the iPad doesn't provide software yet. Neither do mobile devices that allow you to do a mashup. So I think YouTube has really gone on the bandwagon and got on the front foot here, and is providing you a format online to actually do it. You've got your own YouTube editor. I think it's /TestTube, and if you search YouTube editor, you can have a look at it.
That's right, yeah, absolutely, and it just gives you a very simple way to cut all these things together. And it's going along with this sort of stuff. I think it's just this idea of having media so easily to manipulate, so to speak, and having it in the grasp of anyone that is interested in doing it. Whereas if you can imagine 10-15 years ago, that was totally impossible.
Well, now it's all about sharing that media, and the really interesting thing with the YouTube editor is it's available to anyone on YouTube to mash up if you tick open license. Right. So that will actually allow anyone else online to mash it up, take your video and maybe make it a little bit better than it was. Maybe, make you have an exploding head or something like that, if that's a little bit more interesting to people.
No, of course. But I mean, the thing is that by making this extra tool, in a way, it's been heading this way for quite a long time, where you don't need in effect Hollywood now to fund your your dream project. Every single element that is required to make a film is within your grasp, and it's inexpensive. It's been like that for a while, but this is just yet another thing to throw in. I'm sure at the moment it's not designed for feature film editing or anything that complex, but you could see down the track that there might be a system in place where you could start doing this sort of thing, and it kind of opens up this idea of the usefulness of sort of box copy software that we've all grown up with, at least as far as us that can remember far back, because as you can remember, the old Avid systems in the 90s that would set you back, what was it, 30-40 grand or something like that. And,
unbelievable.
And now, I mean, it's now gotten to the point where a cheap laptop, a couple $100 later, and away you go.
Well, this leads to the sorts of rumours that we've been hearing. Absolutely. I mean, no more box software. So your editor of choice, whether it's, Final Cut, Premiere, Avid, will be somewhere in the cloud. And what's, I don't know whether it's that exciting, but what's, really amazing about this is, you'll be editing on the cloud. And this is where they say now that, you won't need the computing power at home because the computing power will be in the cloud.
Yeah.
So that does open suddenly you on a mobile device, whether it's a phone or a tablet, actually to start editing high end. And that's why I think there are rumours circulating now that Final Cut Pro is done.
Yeah.
They've taken it as far as they will. Next thing you'll see will be a Final Cut Pro app, which it'll actually be iMovie app or whatever. And you'll be able to, Steve Jobs will allow you finally to edit all your stuff, upload it to the cloud, probably be shot in the cloud if you're using an iPhone anyway, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you'll use a cloud-based editor to create your own stuff. Or if, you're some sort of arty type, you might take someone else's content and, trick it up a little bit with a mashup.
Absolutely, it makes all that copyrightable material all that harder to police, doesn't it? You could get your as we were talking about just before we started, the old Star Wars fanboy films or anything like that. Anyone can mix and match anything, and if anything, that might be a way to get an audience, say for the more official films and whatever, get them more interested in the films themselves, because maybe this is a way. Maybe this is the interactive movie, not the choose your own adventure type thing, but you actually get to cut the thing yourself and then maybe say to them, see, I can do it better than you.
Absolutely. And can you imagine like some of the things that, that could repopularize films? I mean, there's a lot of technology out there today. And I mean, they're available that allow people to key things, create images. I mean, if you had access to a Hollywood film, you could quite potentially, in this day and age, recreate some of those scenes with you and a friend or some friends. Yeah. And, how good would that? You'd be able to copy your whole big-name film with you just acting in front of a green screen. It'd be great.
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing is, like, it kind of calls into question again this idea of where Hollywood sort of sits with this sort of stuff. I mean, Hollywood's not the only...
Hollywood created it all.
That's right. Well, I mean, in the sense that... it's not just Hollywood, but it's any sort of medium that produces, official high-end content that is released through your traditional methods, is that when you've got the capability for anybody to create whatever they want, whenever they want, in a very simple format, and crucially, being able to put it into a distribution platform that they don't have to, pay for and is easily accessible by everyone on the planet, it sort of takes that bit of exclusivity away from the Hollywood type thing, especially because even though, Hollywood's got the glitz and glamour and they got the $100 million budgets and whatever else, and you'd get paid millions, but it kind of brings back the independent filmmaker in the sense that you can go in there and make exactly what you want, have it show, you can show it to as many people as you can, and nobody can tell you, oh no, we're not putting that scene in because we can't sell enough toys or something like that.
Well, that's right, and you can also actually down the track, the point of that film very easily. But what I'm interested in is, we've seen, as we've spoken about on here before, how far digital technology has come, especially for, I guess, the home user or low-budget filmmaker. And we now have the ability at home, especially with the sorts of applications we're talking about at the moment, to mash up and to create a fiction out of something that once started either as art or true fact. And what we've seen in the last few weeks with the London riots, and I even believe with the air shows, is people have actually mashed up their own versions of some of the footage.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And they're showing misleading images based on real images. And I wonder now, I mean, this gets back to journalism and maybe even the paywall. At what point, and I don't know if anyone's ever seen the film with Wag the Dog with Dustin Hoffman, which sort of brought this up, 10 or 12 years ago, but in a Hollywood context. If people start to alter real primary images to portray messages that they want, how are we going to know in a news sense when we're watching something that's 100% real or fake? And is this something that, maybe will bring in the paywall, because you'll want to pay to know that what you're watching is the real deal?
Yeah. So it's kind of like excessive tabloid, amateur tabloidism in a way.
Absolutely.
People can just go nuts with. Well, it's already on YouTube. You can Google as many videos as you like of people that have done. This idea of a lot of still photographs edited together,
exactly,
and things like that, and this extra step of adding a cloud-based editing feature is just going to exacerbate a lot of that.
Well, especially as it can be shared so quickly on the cloud.
Exactly.
So what starts off as real footage becomes a fantasy, but how would I know once it gets passed to me via 200 or 300 other parties? So it's a really interesting thing as to where that will go, and how we'll be able to discern these things. Hollywood, however, I think is safe, because no matter how funny or touching we can pay homage to a Hollywood film by imitating it, I don't think we'll ever have the technology at home to make any low budget film may even approach Hollywood.
Well, of course, because they'll always get the best toys first, because they can pay for them. But I mean, just one final point that I wanted to finish up on too, which I just wanted to get what you thought about this as well, is just this idea that a lot of people are talking about cloud-based work in general, and this is just another example of it, as sort of taking the place of sort of like offline sort of methods, whether it's documents, using documents, photos, whatever. But I'm just wondering that there would still be a need for that offline sort of work, and that this is really more of a complementary sort of feature rather than a replacement feature.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't know that I can answer that, because, in a lot of ways I got brought up with a pen and paper, and I prefer that for taking notes. But I could well imagine if I only got brought up with the cloud, how easy would that be? We've been brought up probably with the offline idea, which is still probably rooted back in the pen and paper days, that you go away and have a think about it before you open it up. But there's a whole generation out there of kids right now that are quite comfortable with putting stuff up, sharing it, and having it improved by their friends. So, whether that's writing, images, video, even just, thoughts for the day. I mean, look at Twitter. The way people retweet and add on to a tweet, and a tweet's only 140 characters. So there shouldn't be that much room for creativity. So who knows? Who knows where it's going to go?
Well, that's probably a good point to finish up on. We can think about all the tantalizing possibilities as we go into this new future of the media world that we're working in.
If anyone out there has any ideas, Facebook us, tweet us, let us know. We'd love to hear. Communicate with us in a completely new cloud-based way, please.
Well, absolutely. All our social media platforms are cloud-based after all, so...
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, thanks again, Steve, for the chat. It was fun again, and I'm sure we'll revisit some of this sort of stuff in the future too, because it's all new and it's ever evolving. So don't forget, once again, our website, www.fistchat.com. Check us out there. That's it for this episode, so we'll catch you next week.